Hello everyone, my name is Mike Norman. I'm CCO at VMI in the Netherlands, which means that I'm responsible for all the commercial activities of VMI globally. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers of ITEC for giving me this opportunity to open what will be a very interesting session. We are undoubtedly living through difficult times. Many adjectives are used to describe these times, but probably the most accurate is uncertain. What is not uncertain, of course, is the horrible year we have experienced so far. Travel by road came close to collapsing, and in some countries, new car and truck sales virtually stopped dead. Naturally, this has a lasting effect on the tire industry. At times like these, I guess there are three basic strategies companies tend to adopt. The first is to make small adjustments, hang on to your cash, put a hold on capital investment, keep your head down and pray. The second is to take the short-term view, slash costs, usually in the form of mass redundancies, stop all investments, and pray. The third is to make necessary adjustments to capacity, etc., and take this opportunity to realign your business and invest in the future. There is no time to pray because you are too busy strengthening your position in the market, too busy taking the opportunity to become more efficient, and too busy bringing new developments to the market whilst your competition is busy praying. At VMI, we have chosen the third option. Our business model is not capital intensive, so we do not invest in automation of our plant, but we are looking at ways to become more efficient, and we do continue our heavy investment in R&D. Our main focuses can be summarized in 4 areas. Further improving automation by looking at ways in which our machines interface with others in the customer's process. This approach is designed to bridge the gap between the islands of automation which currently exist in the tire industry. Digitalization, developments in camera systems to improve process control and monitoring, allow us also to invest in big data collection and analysis, self-learning algorithms and statistical process control. I'm sure that this will be something that will be discussed in Brian's presentation about fleet management. We are also investing in enhancing our remote support methods, which is driven in part by the current limitations in travel, where engineers have to spend weeks in quarantine before attending to a machine. And finally, we are investing in new production methods which challenge the traditional high-volume business model by bringing more flexibility to the manufacturing process. We expect the recovery to take time, perhaps into 2022, but we believe in the future of our industry and are investing to help those customers who are willing to invest with us and to come out of this crisis stronger and better prepared for an uncertain future. In the same way VMI and our customers have had to adapt to changing circumstances, the ITEC organization has shown tremendous flexibility and imagination to organize this virtual event. I believe that this will be as valuable to the industry as the traditional event we are used to. I wish everybody success and have pleasure in handing over to Bruce Meyer.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. I'm Bruce Meyer, editor of Rubber and Plastics News, and welcome to the International Tire Exhibition and Conference. This, of course, is an ITEC unlike any other. Rubber and Plastics News has been organizing this conference since 1994, and this is the very first one brought to you in a virtual format because, of course, the ongoing safety concerns related to the coronavirus pandemic. We hope you are staying healthy and safe. Starting today and through next week, we have put together a program that includes a wide variety of technical papers, presentations, panels, and networking opportunities. To start off ITEC 2020, the virtual edition, it is my pleasure to introduce our opening keynote speaker, Brian Goldstine, who is President of Mobility Solutions and Fleet Management for Bridgestone Americas. He started this new role in March and is responsible for developing and scaling the company's mobility solutions to deliver customer-centric offerings that extend beyond traditional tires and service. Brian joined Bridgestone in 2017 as president of the company's Firestone Fibers and Textiles business. He was named Senior Vice President of Fleet Management Solutions in January 2019. Brian has more than 2 decades of experience in consumer packaged goods, working for Kimberly-Clark in numerous leadership roles before joining Bridgestone. Brian will be speaking on the global revolution in mobility. After his talk, Brian will be answering questions from the viewers. If you have a question during the course of the presentation, you can email them to rpnevents@crain.com. That's CRAIN.com. And with that, I present to you our keynote speaker, Brian Goldstine.
Great. Thank you very much, Bruce. First, I want to say delighted to be with you this morning. Thank you very much to Bruce and the team at Rubber and Plastics News, as well as the organizers of ITEC for this opportunity to speak with you today about the future of mobility and the role that tires are going to play in this ongoing transformation. I also want to thank Colleen for your help in organizing, and then Mike for your intro, as well as the support of VMI and the other sponsors to make this a great event. Also want to hope everybody had a great holiday weekend back here on a Tuesday after the holiday. And first and foremost is to make sure I wish everybody good health. Obviously a very challenging year, unprecedented times that we're living through. I know at Bridgestone Americas, we talk about the health and safety of our teammates as the highest priority, as well as making sure that we're doing what we can to help control the spread of the virus within the communities that we work and play. And so first wanted to make sure that I offered that hope for everyone in terms of overall health. Before we dive into my presentation, I did want to give you a little bit of background about myself. My wife, Susie, I have 2 boys, Mitchell and Aaron, almost 20 and just turned 16. And we do have a dog, Grover, which we've had to make sure we don't have him barking while I'm presenting from home today, as well as a leopard gecko named Bugatti. My younger son, Aaron, is a big fan of cars. Therefore, we have a gecko named Bugatti. And also a big Chicago sports fan, as I'm originally from Chicago, raised in California. In terms of my career, Bruce did a terrific job of giving you some highlights around my background. 20 plus years in consumer packaged goods with Unilever, Kraft, and most recently Kimberly-Clark, working across a range of different categories from ice cream to stuffing to the paper business, and also spending a couple of years in Canada leading the consumer operations for Kimberly-Clark in that country. A little over 3 years now with Bridgestone, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to lead our mobility solutions and fleet management solutions team. In terms of Bridgestone, did want to take a few moments to talk a little bit about Bridgestone. As most people know, Bridgestone as a tire company, but we do offer a wide range of tire and automotive services. And we also have a full diversified product portfolio that goes beyond just tires, including but not limited to things such as commercial roofing materials, seismic isolation rubber, and even sporting goods. Those watching the golf tournament yesterday, you may see a few players out there hitting the Bridgestone golf ball. We like to say our product offerings at Bridgestone are designed to improve the way people move, live, work, and play. Bridgestone is truly a global company with operations in 150 countries around the world, founded in 1931 in Japan with the mission of serving society with superior quality. And that mission really does still hold true today and continues to guide our operations nearly 90 years later. And as I mentioned, in 150 countries and more than 140,000 teammates worldwide. I'm part of the Bridgestone Americas region. We are headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee, and that is where our Americas headquarters are, and we cover the territory all the way from Canada down to Argentina. We have a technical center in Akron, Ohio, that is the hub of our R&D and innovation, and we employ more than 55,000 teammates here in the Americas and have an extensive distribution network comprised of what we think are the best tire dealers in the country. And I'm sure many of you are tuning in today as part of this forum. It's great to have you. So let's talk about the current mobility revolution and the role that tires are going to play enabling this transformation. Our industry is changing rapidly. And to really put it in perspective, our industry is experiencing a change of the magnitude from when we went from the wooden wheel to the rubber tire, or really since the advent of the internal combustion engine. And with that change, it's not just our industry, it's really the world is at a turning point. We're at the intersection of multiple macro level changes which are occurring, and those are happening concurrently, including changes within automotive technology, regulations, and society, and of course, most recently, the impacts and changes related to the pandemic. As a result, both customers and consumer behavior is changing, as are the vehicles and businesses the tire industry serves. And so it's within this context that we see a great opportunity and also a lot of uncertainty. There we go. The amount of change, especially this year, can feel particularly overwhelming at times. But with that opportunity, or feelings of kind of being overwhelmed, uncertainty, and change, really does come great opportunity to innovate, evolve, and build a more sustainable future for all. And so at Bridgestone, we very much believe in being open to new ideas, trying new things, and exploring for new and better ways. And that's all within the context of the change that we look at in terms of CASE, or connected, autonomous, shared, and electrification. And so very commonly discussed these four major macro trends that are happening in our industry. But at the same time, there's also a massive digital transformation that's underway, where the physical world and the digital technologies are converging to drive change at a pace that we haven't seen before. And so we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into CASE today, talk about what changes those are bringing and at what pace they're bringing those changes, and then implications to the tire, more broadly to the vehicle as well. So CASE changes to drive the market. Thought I'd offer up some predictions. I think directionally these are right. We could probably debate a bit over the timing of some of these. Some may be more accelerated, some maybe take a little bit longer to come to fruition. But I think directionally these are the right changes that we will be experiencing in our industry. So for instance, pure internal combustion engine sales are expected to peak in 2021, just next year. By 2025, electric vehicles will be more economical than internal combustion engine vehicles across regions and segments, as the cost of that electric power and those batteries continues to come down. Nearly 50% of vehicles sold in 2030 will be electric or hybrid electric. And $800 billion in revenue will be made with on-demand services in 2035. And also in 2035, about a quarter of all vehicles sold will be self-driving cars, half of which will be used for on-demand services. So again, some bold predictions, and we'll see at what pace these come to fruition. But diving more deeply into miles driven, over the next couple of decades, we continue to see miles driven overall increasing. How those miles are driven, the operating model behind that is going to be changing pretty significantly. So in 2020, largely the miles driven are all from personally owned driver-driven vehicles. And you can see over this next decade that we believe we'll start to see that shift more to a shared operating model, but still predominantly driver-driven mix of those miles. Where the real acceleration occurs is in the 2030s. And by 2040, you'll see that a largely shared autonomous operating model. And so very much less in terms of the total miles driven by personal drivers. It really becomes an operating model around that shared experience as well as autonomous, really those two macro trends converging by that time. What does that mean in terms of the cost per mile? Well, that's coming down pretty significantly over time as well in this shared and autonomous world. And so the cost of actually the driver's time is eliminated, and you'll see what becomes a much bigger percentage of that new cost is going to be vehicle maintenance, including tires. They're going to become much more important. And in a shared and autonomous world, downtime is really the enemy. And so scheduling tire and vehicle maintenance to drive efficiency, profitability, and uptime will be incredibly important for the success of these fleets in this new shared autonomous world. So lowering total cost of ownership will be critical, and this can give you a sense of where those costs will come in the future and where the focus will be. What we also continue to believe we'll see here in the rise of fleets is the active use of fleet management systems in the US. You'll see here today about 40% penetration of these systems. We think by 2030 that will grow to almost 2/3 of the marketplace. And the shift will come in not only large fleets, which are already more highly penetrated, but the accelerated growth over the next decade of small and medium fleets. And in total, the fleet management system market is projected to grow by double by 2030. And again, really driven by small and medium fleets as part of that. And as we think about fleet management systems, we also have to keep in mind that fleets are not all the same. And three key dimensions that we look at: the size of the fleet from small, medium, and large, and the number of vehicles within those fleets; the fleet vehicle type, ranging all the way from passenger vehicles all the way to the heavy-duty commercial trucks in the Class 8 category; and then finally, the industry segment. Just because you have a similar size fleet and a similar size vehicle does not mean that the overall solutions are going to be the same, as the segment with which each of these fleets operates is going to be very different, or can be very different, and that's going to lead to a different operating model for that fleet. And that's something that we, as a tire manufacturer and service provider, need to make sure that we're very in tune with. A little bit deeper information in terms of the use of fleet management systems in the US really does reinforce this point. In the bottom left corner here, you'll see where the highest penetration currently exists among fleets, and that's really in the heavy commercial large fleet, where we already see about 80% penetration, really driven by the ELD mandates in recent years. And that has really helped to drive the penetration for this segment of the market. And over the next decade, we see that segment becoming almost fully penetrated. You'll see that small and medium heavy commercial fleets, a little bit lower penetration today, but again, they will continue to grow. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the passenger and light commercial vehicles, the small and medium fleets. That's where we really think we'll see some accelerated growth over the next decade, where today only about 15% penetration, but we're almost half of that market to be penetrated by 2030. So again, as we think about the growth in these fleet management systems, on the next slide, you'll see that the offerings need to really be customized by fleet segment. And this chart is really trying to show the complexity of the offering versus the fleet size. And this is one way of looking at this overall market. I think the key things to take away here are the different fleets are going to be looking for different types of solutions, from vehicle maintenance to regulatory and compliance to driving behavior or workforce management, asset tracking. And larger fleets are going to be using state-of-the-art personalized solutions, and they're going to be interested in more sophisticated use cases and expect full integration with their existing systems. And so we have to be prepared to provide those solutions in a way that can be integrated and create that value. Whereas small and medium fleets are going to likely look for more cost-effective solutions with lower barriers to entry, but very easy to use interfaces based on the complexity of their operation and the areas of focus that they have. So again, one size fits all is not the case in this marketplace, and really understanding the customer's needs, their pain points, and their operating models is going to be critical for providing the right solutions in the right way. To actually shift a little bit here, we'll move into more on the electric vehicle side. And by 2030, we see over 35% of all light commercial vehicles sold will be new energy vehicles, with battery electric vehicles making up about 70% or more of those sales. We do also see around 25% of medium duty and heavy duty trucks sold will be using new energy vehicles as well, such as liquefied natural gas or compressed natural gas technology. So in this market, again, we see a shift to these new energy vehicles, but not necessarily the same across different segments of the market. And that's really illustrated further here on this slide, where we see the different use cases for a light commercial vehicle. A battery technology may make a lot of sense in terms of the types of routes they're running, the amount of miles they're driving, and the time they have to charge overnight. Whereas in the medium duty trucks and the heavy duty trucks, currently with limited application due to low miles per charge, as well as the long charging hours, it might make much sense. Even this morning, there was the announcement from GM and Nikola around partnership around the GM Hydrotech, or their hydrogen fuel cell technology, to be implemented in Nikola's Class 7 and 8 trucks by 2023. So again, similar to the point that this is making, you have to make sure we really look to the market segment, the use of those trucks, and which technology makes the most sense. At a macro level, they're moving away from internal combustion engine, but at a more micro level, understanding what type of technology and being ready to support those needs is going to be very important. So that's some good background in terms of CASE and some of the changes that we see coming. The big thing we also wanted to talk about today is the role of the tire. The rise of fleets and the impacts of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles are both important to understand, but it was enabling and often overlooked within this ecosystem and the industry, and misunderstood at times, is the role of the tire, as the tire is the only part of the vehicle that is connected to the road. Many people think of tires simply as a commoditized component of a vehicle or on a vehicle, but the reality is tires will be at the forefront of enabling an autonomous, connected future. So a little bit more in detail on that is that tires will really become an important source of real-world information about road surfaces, weather conditions, and much, much more. And fleets of the future will need the information their tires provide in order to run a sustainable, efficient, and profitable business. And we tend to think about this model of sense, think, and act. And if you go back one real quick, the sense piece of it is really related to all of the information coming off of the vehicle. And that could be from sensors within the tire or an intelligent tire to other information coming off of the vehicle that's related to behavior of the tire and use of that tire. And then the think is really the advanced analytics that we will apply or can apply to help make sure that we monitor and actually predict the care that's needed for those tires. And finally, the act piece is making sure that we're providing the right level of service, be that in an emergency situation or at some type of planned event, which could come at the end of that shift or the end of that day, or potentially in a week or 2 weeks, but having that knowledge that that work will need to be done. And so tires are a very important source of information overall in terms of the ongoing maintenance of the vehicles and the uptime that we can provide for those vehicles. So what role will tires play in future mobility? Much like they do today, tires will be instrumental in ensuring a smooth, quiet, comfortable ride. And you can imagine in an autonomous setting, people will be very in tune with the overall sounds coming from the vehicle, especially if it's an electric vehicle as well. And so making sure that those tires are providing that level of comfort and convenience is going to be critical. But at the same time, uptime and efficiency is going to be really important, as you don't have someone there to change that tire. So intelligent tires of the future will be fully integrated into the broader vehicle ecosystem, helping fleets to make sure they're able to maximize uptime and drive efficiency. And the tires of the future will also help improve safety when moving people and goods by proactively anticipating and avoiding risks, as the tires are able to model what implications are coming from the environment around them based on the use of that tire and based on the behavior of the driver and that vehicle. So as mobility evolves, we see evolution in two key areas, really around product and service. And we'll dive a little bit more deeply into some of the things that we're doing at Bridgestone and more broadly that need to be done in the industry to support each of these. So let's start by talking about product evolution. We do continue to see or believe that products that offer extended mobility will become increasingly important. This is very much true in the world of autonomous vehicles and larger fleet environment, that tires offer this critically important benefit. There won't be a driver in an autonomous setting to change a tire or to call for emergency roadside service. And so that tire will need to be connected, and we'll need to make sure we're extending the life of that tire. So things such as run flat technology and sealant technology will continue to be important offerings in the short to midterm. But we also see advancements from the product side in terms of non-pneumatic or air-free technology. So several tire manufacturers are exploring and developing air-free solutions today, but mostly for the passenger vehicle market. Bridgestone, we also have a number of concepts that we're developing globally at our different technology centers around the world. One we're excited about right now is our air-free commercial truck tire concept for the heavy-duty trucking market. We believe an air-free commercial truck tire will help fleets meet important business and safety objectives, such as maximizing uptime, lowering total cost of ownership, and reducing emergency roadside service events. Our air-free tire is still in concept and testing phase, but it is designed to be used in high-speed, long-haul applications, particularly for the trailer. As you can see depicted in the small graph here with the red tires at the back end of the trailer. Trailer tires do account for only about 20% of truck tire purchases today, but they are approximately 40% of all tire failures are occurring in the trailer positions. So while we're focused first on trailer position, we do believe that advancements in air-free commercial truck tires in this concept will be scalable over time to other commercial trucking wheel positions and applications. So we're excited about the progress we're making on our air-free concept and some of our initial pilots, and look forward to more news coming in this area in the months and years to come. What's also important is related to our air-free concept, and even more broadly beyond to pneumatic tires, is retreading. The air-free commercial truck tire concept is designed to be retreadable, meaning that the tire solution would be more sustainable and better for the environment. And more broadly, retreading is very important in terms of reducing natural resource consumption and helping to defer millions of tires from landfills and keep them in service for longer. There's also not only the sustainability benefits of reducing CO2 emissions, getting the most life out of the tire, but also financially, it can help to provide contribution to resource productivity and drive efficiency, lowering the total cost of ownership for the fleet. And so we really do expect, with the growth of fleets, that we'll see even greater growth and adoption of retreading among fleets for all sizes of vehicles. So now let's talk a little bit about the evolution around the service side that will complement the product evolution. As I've said, tires will become an important source of information, relaying real-time road, temperature, weather conditions to a broader connected vehicle ecosystem. And vehicles will be important sources of data and information. And so think about not only the vehicle as a computer on wheels, but those wheels themselves, the tires, will also become a very important part of this ecosystem, providing very critical data to the operation of the overall vehicle and in terms of helping to support that ecosystem. The first thing we'll do is we'll start by monitoring the vehicle, which will give us a lot of data. And it's very important in terms of how we use that data and interpret that data to take actions. And so applying advanced analytics, algorithms, predictive models, using machine learning and artificial intelligence will over time be able to not only monitor what's going on with the vehicle, but better and better be able to predict when service is needed and then prescribe the action to be taken. And again, this is all to be done in a seamlessly automated way, really helping to reduce the friction within the current ecosystem from a lot of manual type of interactions that need to occur to maintain vehicles uptime and help make sure that they're running efficiently. As we look at the overall ecosystem, we really try to make sure we're understanding the needs of the fleet. and the activities that occur during each of those critical stages, from pre-trip to route operations to post-trip to yard monitoring, and make sure that we have the right solutions to help make sure we're monitoring the tires, getting the proper data from the tires and from the vehicles to ensure that we're maximizing the time on the road for the vehicles and minimizing the amount of downtime. And the solutions that we develop as an industry, we need to make sure those are integrated, and so that it creates a seamless experience for the customer or for the fleet. If the fleet doesn't have a seamless experience, it's going to create tension and friction in the system, and it's not going to give them the experience that they're looking for and really truly help them to realize the value of each of the solutions individually if they're not connected together as a system or as an ecosystem. So we've talked a lot about over-the-road vehicles and trucking fleets, but many of the tire monitoring and fleet management solutions are coming to market first in the global mining segment. And you can think about the extreme conditions that a tire faces and a vehicle faces in a mining environment. And any incident with that tire can actually create a lot of inefficiency and create some pretty significant safety risks as well for those who are driving those vehicles. And that's where tire-centric solutions really come into play. And with advanced tire monitoring and management platforms, the mine operators are now able to predict the moment of tire failure. They're also able to understand how the behavior of the driver or of that vehicle is impacting the overall life of that tire, and able to make modifications in terms of how they are operating to maximize the value of that tire, as well as maximize the value of their operation. And along with this, again, does come some very critical safety benefits as well. Just recently in the news, you may have seen that at Bridgestone, we acquired the ITEC Solutions business. And this is a comprehensive tire monitoring system that's really designed for mining tires. And in addition to tracking things such as temperature and pressure, it also has ability for geofencing, so we can really hone in on certain areas within the mine where there's more sensitivity to how that vehicle is being managed and those tires are being taken care of. GPS positioning, accelerometers, so that we can measure lateral and horizontal G-force. So therefore, if a curve is being taken by the vehicle at too high of a speed, which is exceeding the overall lateral G-force that's been recommended as a standard for that vehicle or that tire, we're able to see that real time and be able to communicate to either have that vehicle slow down or perhaps widen out that turn so that that G-force is reduced. Another example is horizontal G-force, where if a road within the mine is too bumpy, we can smooth that out so that we don't put undue strain and stress on that overall vehicle's tire. There's also other use cases we've identified within mines, from how the vehicle's maintenance practices are potentially creating too much temperature or heat on the tire, which is shortening that lifespan of the tire, as well as when the tire's temperatures get too high, being able to reroute those vehicles to maybe a different route within the mine to help allow the time for the tire to cool down without having to take that vehicle completely out of service. And so a whole breadth of learnings that we're getting within the mining industry and from the technology that we're deploying within the vehicles and on the tires that we will see trickle down to other parts of the market. Another great example within Bridgestone is our aircraft business, where we do sell tires to the airlines. And if you think about aircraft tires, they also face some extreme levels of stress, having to handle the weight and speed of repeated aircraft takeoffs and landings. And creating an aircraft tire really demands the utmost from a tire manufacturer's technological capabilities. And if you think about aircraft tires, they are truly part of a broader aircraft ecosystem. And perhaps the greatest example of the trends that we've talked about today are very much in practice within the airline industry. Airplanes today are mostly autonomous. The tires they depend on are retreaded many times. Not sure how many people are aware about the fact that aircraft tires are retreaded a number of times during their life. Their tires are part of a larger connected ecosystem and used to their fullest potential as the airlines are looking to maximize the use of that asset. And safety and performance cannot be compromised at all. And so very top of mind as we do everything we can to help the airlines be the most efficient and effective they can be. So the airline industry, again, similar to mining, is proof that mobility solutions we've talked about today will work to support the movement of people and goods on the roads. And we will continue to see some of the innovations that are coming from these areas of the market, and we'll see them start to get deployed over time in other parts of the market as well. So as we close the presentation, there are some key points I wanted to make sure we keep in mind. We are entering a new era for mobility, the biggest changes we've seen in a couple generations likely. The global pandemic is likely creating some shifts in terms of how quickly some of these macro trends will either accelerate or potentially slow a bit. But we do also believe that all of these macro trends are here to stay, and we will continue to see them progress post the COVID, what we're going through today. The world is becoming increasingly connected, which is why at Bridgestone, we will continue to look for ways to co-create solutions that will create value for our customers and for society. As we can't do it in isolation, we need to make sure we're working very closely with our customers and our partners to identify how we create these solutions to maximize the benefits and do so at the most cost-effective way, and do it in a way that's really truly seamless, creating a great experience for that user and for that customer. And dealers are going to continue to play a critical role in delivering these important solutions. As I mentioned, we need to provide to the fleets a seamless experience, and that's going to require the tire manufacturer and the service providers, the dealers, to continue to work very closely to creating that very integrated, very seamless experience for those customers. So we look forward to all that the future has to offer and hope that you'll join us as we embark on the global revolution in mobility. I do very much appreciate making the time. I also appreciate those who joined us this morning for making the time to participate. And again, thank you to Rubber and Plastics News and the ITEC committee for giving us the opportunity to share today. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Bruce Meyer, and we will dive into some Q&A. Thank you.
Hi, Brian. That certainly presentation gave us a lot to think about. It is this time we're living in is really, we're living history as it goes on, and as the evolution of mobility, everyone, nobody's sure exactly what path it will take or how long it will take, but it definitely is going to have a big impact. I want to let viewers know you can send your questions to rpnevents@crane.com. That should be scrolling across your screen. Let's start with a couple questions for you, Brian. Your presentation focused a lot on fleets of the future. What will personal mobility look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think some of the themes that we discussed today will very much apply to personal mobility. So I think we'll continue to see a shift towards electric vehicles. I think there's a lot of investment and regulatory that's going to continue to drive in that direction. I think we will also see a continued shift toward autonomous vehicles, maybe not this decade, but definitely by the following decade. And I do think ride sharing will continue to also be a very big piece of what we see. It's been slowed here by the recent pandemic, but we do expect that to accelerate. I think also the way that consumers or drivers look to service their vehicles is going to evolve as well. And they're going to look for new digital solutions to help drive greater trust and peace of mind and convenience in terms of how they experience mobility.
Obviously, the thing that's been on the top of everyone's mind has been the pandemic. As we're doing this conference virtually, you're giving the keynote from your own home. Has the pandemic changed any of your thinking about the mobility of the future? Is Bridgestone reassessing any of its efforts as a result of the current health crisis?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, Bridgestone has been focused on making sure that we're protecting the health and safety of our teammates. And so just the way we work in terms of our office environment and how we think about the office, to our manufacturing plants, to our retail stores. A great example in a retail environment, as well as being able to provide touchless experience for the consumer as they come to get their vehicle serviced. And so I think we'll continue to see solutions that provide those types of opportunities. I think at a macro level, we may see a little bit of slowing in some of these current macro trends, such as autonomous vehicles, maybe a little bit of slowing in the investment there. But we really do think that over time, we will continue to see all of these trends play out, and some of them in a more accelerated way maybe than before, in terms of the types of touchless experiences or the types of experiences that consumers are looking to get that drive convenience by benefiting from being able to get services at their home or wherever they want those services that perhaps they had not experienced prior to the pandemic.
This next one, I think you touched on a little bit towards the end of your presentation, but what role will the dealer play in delivering mobility solutions? And do you see the relationship between dealers and tire manufacturers like Bridgestone changing?
Yeah, I think it all starts with the fleet and the fleet customer, and making sure that we as a tire manufacturer with our dealer partners are very much focused on creating the best experience for that fleet and meeting their needs to help lower their total cost of ownership and increase their uptime and be more sustainable in the way they do business. And I think we're only going to see our relationship grow tighter with our dealer partners as we work together to create that frictionless, seamless experience for our end customer.
All right. This next question is one I had as you went through it in your presentation, and somebody from our audience as well. What is the expected timeline for Bridgestone's air-free commercial truck tire to be available on the market?
So we are currently in testing phase, which is great. So it's not just a concept, but it's something that we've had tires on the road and we've started that testing process. I would say we're not talking months, but probably more like years in terms of fuller commercialization. But I would expect by the middle of this decade that we will see air-free tires broadly starting to be adopted within the industry.
In the development of air-free commercial truck tires, what position is most difficult, steer or drive, or is this something that's going to be more used on the trailer?
Yeah, at this point in time, our priority is on the trailer. We believe that based on the use case of the trailer, the amount of downtime that's caused from failures within the trailer tire, that is a great place to start as we think about air-free technology. And so that will be our focus in the short term, but the technology will have application more broadly over time.
All right. Sustainability is also another topic that is front of mind across the whole supply chain for tires, from plantation to product to after product. What role will sustainability play in shaping the future of mobility?
Yeah, I think it's something you can't even separate out. I think it's integral. And at Bridgestone, we very much look at sustainability as the core of our strategy. It's not necessarily a nice to have or an add-on. And a lot of the benefits that we're talking about in terms of driving efficiency, lowering total cost of ownership, maximizing the number of retreads on a vehicle, the types of materials we're using, those all come with sustainability benefits. And so if we start with sustainability at our core, really good business is a sustainable business. And so we really look at them as one and the same.
All right. Here's a question I had. You talked a little bit about co-creating with your customers and partners. How does that go about? Can you give us just a little thought behind, is it something one party brings up, or is it something Bridgestone will identify and take to partners or customers? Just maybe if you could give us a little insight.
Yeah, I'd say probably all of the above. I think we value the relationship that we have with our end fleet customers and understanding what's important to them, how their operations work, where they're experiencing pain points, and determining how we can help solve those pain points through our solutions and our services and our products. And so that really becomes a core part of the conversation we have with those customers, is understanding versus selling. It's more consultative in understanding what are your issues, and then how can we help bring you solutions that will help address those problems to help you to achieve your goals in terms of your bottom line and your efficiency and driving revenue. So really shifting from thinking of tires as a cost to thinking about how we can bring opportunities to drive overall efficiency. At times that could be us asking customers, but at times we may have customers come approach us directly. But I think it really starts with a mindset of how we engage, and it's not about selling, but it's really about solutions.
All right. Thank you. Talked a little bit about the airline industry, and I guess that's one area people probably take for granted, but they really shouldn't. Can you you talked a little bit about there's going to be innovations in that arena. Can you give us what sorts of work on technology that's going on in that area of the business?
Sure. Well, we have relationships with many of the large carriers around the world, not just in North America, but around the world. And it's really similar to what we talked about before, which is the airplane is a connected vehicle in many regards, and making sure that we have the right information that's coming from the tire into that overall digital ecosystem. And so that be it from sensors to retreading of the tire, to how we help the airlines to optimize their overall operation. Really across the gambit of everything we talked about today really does apply into the airline industry.
Now, just one last question. You talked about the mining and all the challenges that come in that part of the business. Obviously, safety is enormous concern. Also, if there's cause of downtime, that can also cost customers a lot of money. So how important is the work going on, the preventive maintenance sorts of things you discussed?
Yeah, I'd say mining is an industry and our customers in that industry that we work very closely with to make sure that we're helping them with the safety of their vehicles, the amount of load that goes into those trucks, the amount of weight and that load that's on the tire at the speeds that the mines want to operate at, for the length of time they want to operate those vehicles on a daily basis. It puts a lot of strain and stress on those tires. And the tires that you buy for a mine, those mines are investing in very high quality products to make sure that they can run their operations. So they want to take care of those assets as well. So it's not just about the uptime of the vehicle, about the safety for the driver of that vehicle, but it's also for maximizing the utilization of that asset as well to have an efficient operation. So we spend a lot of time in terms of making sure that we're getting the right information off of that tire, and with 24/7 monitoring and alerting of where we see issues arising or predicting when there will be an issue coming. And so that can be addressed ahead of time to make sure that we drive those safety and efficiency benefits.
Okay, we have another question just came in. Is Bridgestone developing a non-pneumatic tire for PCR applications? How does the development timeline compare to Bridgestone's ongoing development for the trailer application.
Yeah, so Bridgestone is developing a range of air-free or non-pneumatic tire concepts around the world. I'm not as close to some of the work being done on the passenger side as I am with the work that I've discussed today related to our air-free concept for commercial applications. So yes, we are working on those, but I'm just not close enough to those to be able to speak to the timing of those offerings.
When you talked about fleets, you talked about product evolution and service evolution. It really is a whole concept. You're not just looking at supplying a tire. Like you said, you're trying to maximize time on the road. So how is that going to continue to develop over time? Like you said, one of the biggest things to look at is maximizing time on the road.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we evolve beyond selling a physical good or physical product to really understanding that end-to-end ecosystem and the value chain from an end-to-end perspective, and continue to bring products and services together as broader solution sets that we can use to help our customers. And so that is an area that we at Bridgestone have put a lot of time and focus into recently, and we'll continue to make sure that we're thinking about the customer's operation and their day-to-day challenges that they're facing. And the tire in and of itself as a product, physical product, can help to solve some of those challenges, but it's even more powerful based on the data that we can get from that tire. We can create new tire-centric solutions around the tire, as well as bringing new mobility solutions that encompass that broader vehicle and the overall ecosystem with which that vehicle participates.
All right, Brian, I think we've come to the end of our questions, and I want to thank you again for an excellent presentation and taking the time to help kick off ITEC 2020. The evolution of our mobility system is going to continue to take shape, and I'm sure Bridgestone will have a major part of that. With that, I'd also like to thank our audience for attending this opening session of ITEC. And thank you to our sponsors for supporting ITEC Virtual 2020. If you want to revisit this session or any others from the conference, they will be available on Rubber and Plastics News website at rubbernews.com after the event is completed. If you would like to purchase any papers from any of the sessions of ITEC, visit itec-tireshow.com to do so. Don't forget that you can connect with your colleagues here through the virtual networking program, which can be found on the left-hand side of the screen. Simply click on the Meet icon to start connecting with fellow ITEC attendees. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Virtual ITEC rest of this week and next. Thanks for joining us.